Well, of course, the Wilderness Committee is very proud to be working with our partners from Peace River Country to get this Site C dam stopped, and stopped for good. I think this is the third time we've been up fighting this. So we all came together last year in the Paddle to the Premier, a little takeoff on the Paddle of the Peace that you saw earlier. Probably a number of you right here in this room participated in that event. And that's how we're going to get the Site C dam stopped, by working together, by going from community to community, and debunking the myth that this guy started. And what he has said is that if we don't build Site C, our lights are going to turn off. We're not going to be able to make our coffee in the morning. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, in the Wilderness Committee, you may know we had been traveling around now for several years fighting another project this Mr. Campbell had started, which was the project to privatize our streams and rivers and hand them over to private companies to build electrical power. And that's when we found we don't need this electrical power. It's extraordinarily expensive. And we'd be well off if we understand that fact and save ourselves a ton of money and a ton of hurt, environmental hurt and social hurt, building power projects that we don't need. So how did Mr. Campbell go about setting us up for privatization of our rivers and also this Site C project? Well, it sounded like a good deal. It was energy self-sufficiency. So in the 2003 BC Energy Plan, what the government said was that we needed to be able to look after our own energy needs. Well, the fact is that we do look after our own energy needs. In the last 30 years, BC only imported more energy than we exported in 5 of those years. In fact, we import and export every day as we trade on the energy markets. But if you take into account the energy that we have coming to us from our Columbia River Treaty, where we signed with the Americans in return for damming some of the Columbia on our side, we're entitled to a huge whack of power. We don't use it. We don't take it in electricity. We take it in money, because we don't need it. We have so much electricity. So we are self-sufficient in electricity. We're more than self-sufficient in electricity here in this province. Well, then the next thing is we could become a major exporter of green power. Power that does not, it's not produced by oil, or it's not produced by coal, and that we could export our electricity to California, where we would get a premium. They would pay us extra money for this green power. Well, it turns out that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen because of the environmental impacts you've been hearing tonight. This kind of power is just too damaging to the environment for California or any other jurisdiction to call green power and therefore pay an extra amount of money. So then, later on in the decade, government changed its tune for the third time and say, well, maybe we are self-sufficient. Maybe California won't pay for our power, but we're going to need this in the future. Well, there's a problem with that. And the problem is no system, no living system, and we are a living system, can continue to grow forever. There's got to be some limits. So BC Hydro in 2007 commissioned a report. It's called the Marbeck Report. And they looked at what could we do with conservation. And as you heard from earlier speakers, conservation is where it's at. The Marbeck Report found we don't need to be using any more energy in 20 years than we use right today. And that's where it's at. It's in conservation. Conservation in our big industries, conservation in our homes that are going to get us where we need, not damming big, beautiful river valleys. Well, what would we lose? Our shirts. We've all read the news. BC Hydro, and BC Hydro is a tool of the provincial government, is stealing us for rate increases 30 some odd percent, 40%, 50%, who knows? I mean, in the private river power, we will be paying $1 billion a year by 2014 to private companies for power we don't need, can't use, and can only sell at a loss. This project, adding another $8 billion, we are in real danger of losing BC Hydro and losing our shirts. And that's why we're traveling around from town to town and city to city to bring this news. So what's this all about? Well, we heard a little bit about that. Part of that, this power, because you're not going to sell it to the Californians at a premium, this looks to us like a multi-billion-dollar subsidy to the gas and oil industry, to move that shale gas to the tar sands. Now, you've also heard about the electrification of the Northwest. There's a number of big coal mines that want to get going there, and this would be a subsidy to them. And finally, the reservoir would be a subsidy to the private river power industry because they need a reservoir so that hydro can sort of hold on to electricity and try and get a little bit of extra money for it. So it's a massive subsidy paid for by regular ratepayers to a few large corporations, which generally donate heavily to the party in power. It stinks to high heaven. Conservation is the way to go, and conservation is going to come in many, many forms, including the form we see here on the Bloom family farm. They've just installed the solar panels and are now watching their meters turn backwards when the sun shines. So how do we move forward? Well, clean energy is going to be, we're going to continue to get new clean energy projects. They're going to be regionally planned. You're going to go to a place like the Peace River and talk to the farmers, talk to the First Nations. You're going to make it so that it works in the community. It's going to be environmentally appropriate. It's not going to wipe out the bull trout populations if it's going to go forward. It's going to be acceptable to First Nations because that's their territories, and it's going to be publicly owned. And Site C so far is publicly owned, but it doesn't meet all those other things. That's how we move forward. So how are we going to stop it? I've been holding on to this little card here. It says, "Keep the peace." We've got stacks of these cards in the back. We want to get them signed and mailed into the Premier. It's got the wrong Premier's name on it, and I keep changing Premiers. We just cross that off and get on the new Premier and get that sucker in. Grab yourself a bundle, get it around your community.